Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to wait a few more minutes to let people join. But please make yourself comfortable for the next hour with us. And yeah, while we're still gathering a few people, we will start a little survey because we would like to get to know you and our audience today. And we invite you to answer 3 questions on the survey. One is about your career level, the other one is more about the sector or the work you're involved in, and the last one is on your relationship to the Arctic. So we're going to start the survey now. Well, once again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our today's Arctic Passion seminar and dialogue is dedicated to the topic of air quality. So this is and specifically introducing a new service of the EU Arctic Passion project, the Air Quality Forecast for Arctic Communities. And before we introduce our distinguished speakers today, in the framework of this webinar, we would love to hear more about you. So we would like to know who's in the room today. We invite you to write us in the chat your name, your background, and why you're here with us. And we're going to start with our own little introduction. So when I say we, I mean Lisa, Grosfeld, and myself. We are both working for the Association of Polar Early Career Scientists at the Wegener Institute for Polar Marine Research in the Arctic Passion project.
Hi, everyone, also from my side.
Okay, so let's look at the survey responses. Great to have you all on board. So we have actually quite an even number on early and senior career professionals with us. That's great to hear. Usually we are more used to reach out to the early careers, but it's really great to have quite an equal level here. And but almost all of them coming from natural sciences. And many of us, 70% working in the area, working in the Arctic. Actually, none of them living in the Arctic or originating from the Arctic. Nice. I think you should be able to see this answers now as well. Great. Yeah, a few housekeeping notes before we get started. We love to see you, so we invite you to switch on your camera. Also for the recording, you should be aware that we are recording this webinar, so you will be potentially seen online. And the recording is made available through the Arctic Passion and the APECS websites to allow all people who are not able to join us today to follow us along and to listen in later on. We are welcoming any questions you may have and invite you to use the chat, or specifically in the second half of the webinar, where we will now active in discussion. We invite you to get involved by raising your hand and speak up yourself. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Just a few words about your hosts of today. This online seminar is organized by APECS in the frame of the Arctic Passion project. So what is APECS? It's a network from early career scientists for early career scientists from all kind of disciplines and cultural national backgrounds from more than 5,000 members. And we have actually right now almost 30 national committees in 30 countries. So APECS is a platform for exchange on various topics, on the topic of knowledge transfer, alternative career paths, but also just to celebrate the polar and the alpine research and regions. Education and training is a very integral part for us in APECS, and so we are involved in various EU projects, of which Arctic Passion is the most recent one.
Yeah, and in Arctic Passion, APECS is organizing this online seminar and dialogue series, which started in the first year of the project. And this is a tool for us to communicate project contents and to share our plans and results and to initiate, especially an inclusive and proactive dialogue with a diverse audience coming from different groups, backgrounds, and career levels. And just in very short, because we'll hear a few more words about the Arctic Passion project in general in a few minutes. The Arctic Passion project is working on improving the network of environmental observing systems in the Arctic. And to achieve this, we are working together with Arctic communities and scientific networks and also decision makers. And we are helping to improve the current systems, but also developing new services to meet the needs of the people in the Arctic and also the larger society. And this is also why we are here today. We would like to present a new service, the air quality forecast for Arctic communities today. And with this, I would warmly welcome our two colleagues, Ilaria Crotti and Alice Cuzzucoli, who are developing this forecast service. Ilaria Crotti is a polar scientist at the Joint Research Center, which is a department under the European Commission and is providing knowledge and science to support the EU policies. And Alice Cuzzucoli is a mathematician and an AI scientist at the largest Italian research center, the Italian National Research Council. And with this, I would like to hand over to you both. And again, a warm welcome to you. And yeah, we are looking forward to hear an introduction now on the forecast. And afterwards, we will meet again to have a discussion with you all. So welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Josephine, for introducing us and inviting us today. Okay, so again, thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for welcome us and our service in this webinar series. So Josephine and Lisa already introduced. I'm Ilaria Crotti, and with my colleague Alice Cuzzucoli, we will present you this work on artificial intelligence related to air quality forecast in the Arctic. Our work is has been developed as a collaboration within the big Arctic Passion project, and especially this collaboration is between the Joint Research Center of the European Commission in ISPA, Italy, and the National Research Council of Italy in Rome. So the Arctic Passion project is a big Horizon 2020 project, and it aims at creating a pan-Arctic observing system of systems. So it wants to create this system that helps to overcome the flaws in the present observing system for the Arctic. It aims also at expanding pan-Arctic scientific and community-based monitoring, as already has been introduced. There is a high involvement of indigenous and local communities in order to share their knowledge and to merge it with the scientific knowledge, classic scientific knowledge. Then this service also promotes interoperability of Arctic data systems and services, and it wants this project also aims at ensuring the economic viability and sustainability of the observing systems in the Arctic for the years to come. As I said, Arctic Passion is a big project. It involves 43 partners and also many indigenous communities across the Arctic. The project is structured in a way that there are many Arctic surveys that are going to be produced and developed to provide Arctic citizens and communities of useful climate and environmental information that comes from both classic scientific sources, such as, for example, satellite data and so on, but also from indigenous knowledge and local knowledge. There are several services, as you can see here. So there are 8 of them. And for example, we have a permafrost service that has already been introduced in one of the past webinars. but focuses on observing how permafrost changes over time in the Arctic. Then there is, for example, the Integrated Fire Risk Management Service, where information regarding Arctic fires are provided to communities. And then there is our service, that is the Local Atmospheric Pollutant Forecast Service, and we're going to introduce you today. So for the ones of you who are not very familiar with air pollution is one of the top 10 risk factors for worldwide death, updated to 2029. So among the top 10, we have air pollution that is just below obesity, smoking, high cholesterol. So it takes a toll at the global level, because many of the air pollutants, they are very fine, so they could inhaled and they get into our body and our system. And considering their different chemical composition, they could cause several damages to many of our organs, as you can see on the right side of the screen. So they can damage from the brain and our nervous systems to also the lungs and our breathing system, so creating asthma and other problems. Then could cause other diseases related, for example, to the heart, so cardiovascular diseases, and then it could damage also the reproductive system, and due to some particular composition, for example, coming from organic components, it could also cause cancer. So for our service, we decided to focus on only one atmospheric pollutant, that is the PM10 in Northern Europe. So PM stands for particulate matter, and it is a complex mixture of solids and aerosols suspended in the atmosphere with a very fine diameter, which is less of 10 microns. So considering this very fine diameter, it's inhalable, can get into our lungs and into our respiratory system. And as we saw before, it could damage our body, creating cardiovascular problems, respiratory problems. And considering the various chemical composition of the PM and the presence of organic pollutants, it could also lead to cancer. For this reason, the World Health Organization in 2021 updated their recommendation, and they lowered the recommended standards for concentration. So nowadays, 15 microgram per cubic meter is the mean annual concentration suggested, and 45 microgram per cubic meter is the mean daily concentration. Even if we consider Northern Europe and the Arctic quite clean in terms of air pollution, still not many of those areas could be considered within the WHO recommendations. As we can have a look at the map here below, we can see that many of the stations in, for example, Norway or Finland, they are the concentration, the mean annual concentration, say between 20 and 40 microgram per cubic meter, which is way above the mean annual recommended concentration. In addition, we have to think about the future in the Arctic, because considering global warming, many economic activities are spreading in the Arctic, such as shipping and mining. So, and also many people are moving there. So this could be some facts that need to be taken in consideration that could cause an increase in air pollution in the future. At the moment, the PM10, so the particulate matter for North Europe, is predicted by the Atmospheric Monitoring Service, called also CAMS, that on daily basis they provide 4 days of PM10 forecast for all Europe. This is a service that gathers information from the ECMWF, which is the European Center of Medium Range Weather Forecast, that provides the chemical limit conditions for the models, the meteorological limit conditions, and wildfire emissions. Both data are put together with the European Environmental Agency surface observations. So there are many stations across Europe that collect near real-time data regarding meteorological variables and also measuring air pollution. And all those information are used as input data for 11 deterministic models that each of them is produced by different countries around Europe. So all those models produce 4 days forecast of different types of air pollution, and CAMS allows to create an ensemble, so a median of the air pollution forecast as a result. And this result, along with all the forecasts coming from all models, is provided on daily basis on the Copernicus Atmospheric Service data stores, and it's ready to be used by programmers, users, and the scientific communities. However, for the Arctic, the CAMS forecast has shows some limitations. In particular, this is connected to forecast performances. So the forecast is for Northern Europe is related to high error versus in situ measurements. And also for Northern Europe and Arctic, there are only a limited number of in situ monitoring stations that are used for data simulations, which are about 20. So this created some, let's say, issues in providing an accurate forecast for both countries. In addition, as we said that we would like to provide a forecast for Arctic communities, CAMS has some limitations in terms of data accessibility, because the data of air pollution forecasts usually are available only in professional user format called NextDF. So people need some knowledge in a little bit of modeling, and also in programming. They need some modeling, vocabulary knowledge, and programming skills to access those data, download the data, and then treat them to obtain the information that they want on air pollution. In addition, there is no unique platform where users can both access near real-time data of air pollution and the forecast all together. So as I introduced before, for this reason, considering that air pollution is an issue, it's a global issue, but also could be an issue for Northern European countries, it's very important to have an accurate forecast, because it's essential for Arctic communities and Arctic citizens to be prepared for emergencies, for example, like wildfires that produce a lot of pollution, or pollution events that are related to the movement of air masses that could create high concentration levels in some communities. And also having a good forecast is important. It is important also to plan and to mitigate atmospheric pollutions in the following days, years, and months in certain communities. So our service aims, as has been introduced before, to improve the Copernicus atmospheric forecast, so to improve the European forecast at Arctic level using the application of artificial intelligence. So we are trying a different aspect, but different methodologies in comparison to the one used until now by CAMS. And then we also want to extend the data accessibility of the forecast to all users, including citizens and communities.
Okay, so now I'll give you a brief outline of the technical stuff. First of all, as a summary of the situation with data, what we're dealing with is data collected throughout a time span of 4 years, from June 2020 to May 2024. And each of these variables has been collected with hourly frequency. And as you can see, they are very heterogeneous data. So first of all, our aim is to predict particulate matter concentration. So of course, we've collected data from a lot of stations. So we have more than 100 stations scattered throughout Northern Europe. And we've collected then PM10 concentrations from those stations. And then aside of these type of data, we also added some auxiliary data, which, as Ilaria mentioned, are from deterministic models. So we've added all the predictions from Copernicus service, so from each of the 9 models. So for each of these models, we've collected 48 hours sequences, which represent the forecasts from the day of collection. And also aside of this, we also have meteorological variables, which are variables which may interfere with the concentration of particulate matter. So as you can see, we have temperature, boundary layer height, wind, pressure, and precipitation. And for these, we also have 48 hours predictions, so sequences of 48 hours, which represent the forecast of these variables from the day of collection. As we want to specialize this model in order to produce predictions for each of the stations, we will also include in the model information about their geographical position. So as a static element, we also add their coordinates, so longitude, latitude, and altitude. So the type of data that we are dealing with is time series data, because is data collected through time, and we want to also produce a time series because we want to produce a 48-hour prediction, so a sequence of 48 steps of particulate matter in this case. This type of task is very well known in deep learning, and usually what these models do is that they take as input vectors for specific time steps, they take a collection of all of the variables at each time step. As you can see in this picture on the left, this is what the input for deep learning models usually is. And in a previous work that we developed last year, we compared a lot of a bunch of models that for a long time they've been the state of the art for this type of task, which are models within the family of recurrent neural networks. And in that work, we showed that the models such as long short-term memory networks are the ones that manage to produce a prediction, which in that case for a very similar task managed to outperform Copernicus forecasts. Nevertheless, what happens is that in some cases, correlations might not be just relevant in parallel time steps, but some information might be enclosed in subsequences at different shifts, as you can see in the picture on the right. So in order to analyze the situation in this case, we implied a new type of model, which is called cross-former, and is a new model that was developed in 2023 and is based on a acclaimed architecture based on the encoder and decoder structure for the transformer model. So this model was developed in 2017, and it is usually implied for tasks in natural language processing. So maybe you might be familiar with entities such as ChatGPT or language translators. And in that case, what these entities do is that they take as sequences of words as an input, and then they give you sequences of words as an output. So again, these are architectures that deal with sequential data. So the task is very similar. The idea is that these architectures were shown in different domains to outperform recurrent neural networks for what concerns sequential data, in that they better incorporate historical information, and they also better deal with correlations in cross-time, and in case of multivariate time series, even cross-dimensional information. So these architectures, without going into too many details, I'm just going to give you the outline of what they do. So they are based with 2 blocks, which were the encoder and the decoder. And can you go back Ilaria, sorry. The three main ingredients are the embedding, the attention mechanism, and the feed-forward network. So basically, as you can imagine, if I have a sequence of words, I need to translate them into numbers in order to be analyzed. So the embedding does this. So it gives you a representation of the object into a vector that can then be analyzed. The attention mechanism analyzes the sequence, giving you the relevant aspects of the sequence, especially telling you how the information spreads through the sequence and how the entries within each sequence are relevant, are mutually relevant within the sequence. All this information is then processed through the feed-forward network. The encoder takes in this vector representation, analyzes the information, and gives these analyses to the decoder. The decoder then is in charge of giving you the output sequence, so takes in the analyses and gives you an output in the original domain format. So basically, if you give it a sentence, then the decoder would have to give you out a sentence. So this is the base, but the idea is that we wanted to develop a model which could deal with time series. So the cross-former is based on the transformer architecture, but deals better with cross-time and cross-dimension analyses. So in this slide, you can see an outline of the data flow from the input to the output and outlining all the process. So the first step, of course, is data collection. So we can gather all of the data that we've mentioned in previous slides from each online service, and is pre-processed in order to give us all collections of sequences for each of the variables. So basically, for each station, we have their geographical coordinates, which is the added part that we gave to this model. We have sequences of historical observations for the particular matter. And then we also have the predictions. So from the date of the collection, we have 48 hours predictions for meteorological variables, as previously mentioned, and all the forecasts from the 9 Copernicus models. As a second step, all this information is then passed on to an embedding, which in this case, we have a very specific feature of cross-former, which these blocks, these small like Lego blocks, they represent subsequences of the large sequence, which is the input sequence. Like, for example, our input sequence consists of a sequence of 96 hours, but we subdivided it into subsequences of 24 hours to understand what relevant information is within that block. And then we also add in the embedding phase the geographical information. So to add some specification to that station to each of these entries. So once the embedding is done, the data is ready to go for the modeling phase. So as a third step, the data moves to the encoder, and then next to this to the decoder. And first of all of these smaller blocks are analyzed cross-time as shown by the blue blocks. So each of the variables is analyzed through time, and then all of these blocks are analyzed through dimension. So also to check all the correlations through the different variables. Once these analyses have been done, they are passed on to the decoder, and the decoder then produces, as a last step, the prediction. So the outcome will be a 48 hours sequence where each entry is a concentration for PM10 a specific time, and this output is then passed on to the dashboard for visualization for the user. So to sum up, the first step in the development of our service was to develop a forecasting model which was adapted to our needs. So we found that the cross-former architecture was one of the best performing models for our task, and we adapted this to our model by adding a geometrical feature which could help with the generalization for all of the stations that we had in our data set. While we have also optimized our model for our needs, it also needs to be said that this model is specified for stations in Northern Europe because it has been trained with all of these stations that were available in Northern Europe. Our main aim, as Ilaria mentioned, was to find a forecast that was basically a bit better than the forecast available from CAMS. so from the Copernicus service. And as you can see from the plot on the right, we managed to find a model which manages to outperform the Copernicus models. So what you can see here is the evaluation that we did on a test set consisting of sequences collected for a year in all of the different variables that we've mentioned before. We evaluated the performance of the Copernicus models, and the evaluation is done in this case with the mean square error, and you can see the error for the 9 Copernicus models as the green bars, and then you can see the error for our evaluation of our model with the red bar, and you can see that even compared to the best performing CAMS model, then our model shows like a significant improvement in the performance. So this basically met our needs for this service.
Okay, so now we move to the second aim of our service, which is to improve the data accessibility of air pollution forecast. Because as I said, as we mentioned before, the Copernicus Atmospheric Service is providing data on a professional user in a professional user format. So it's very difficult to access those data for the ones who are not trained in topics such as modeling and programming skill and programming. So this is how our website will look like. We are still in the development phase, but we are very close to the final version. So we have a simple and plain graphics where the user just can connect to the website and without any kind of registration can just access. I'm sorry. Can just access the website. So on the left side of the main panel, the user can decide what to show on the interactive map on the right side. So the choices are the measured, so means near real-time PM10 data that could be displayed. Then they can decide to have a look at the forecast of one day, so if the following 24 hours, or the 2 days forecast, so for the following 48 hours. So the results of a chosen option are displayed on an interactive map on the right side, where each dot represents each of the monitoring stations that also Alicia mentioned before. So each dot is a station, and the map allows to zoom in and zoom out. So after clicking on a single station, for example, this one, the user can have a look at the bottom part of the page, of the web page, where historical data, so the PM10 time series is shown from 2020 up to date. So it could be seen that, for example, in this case, the PM10 is in some way seasonal variation. So for each station, it could be seen how the concentration changed over each year and over 4 years by now. And then on the right side, the last week, there is a focus on the last week data regarding how the PM10 concentration changed. And then we will add also a forecast here that will be in red to show the following 2 days forecast. In addition, once clicking on the station name, the station code, and all the data, so the measured PM10, the forecast for both 24 and 48 hours will be shown here. And in addition, the legend will help the users to better understand what the colors means. So the colors are both related to the concentration level. So green color stands for that the concentration levels of PM10 are low. So that's good for human health. While the more the concentration increase, the more the colors get from orange to red. So it means that the air quality is deteriorating, as well as the healthiness of the air quality. Okay. So before concluding, we'd like to also, sorry, there is something that didn't show up, which is very important. That is the download bulletin button. So the users will be able to download and access the data in a TXT file, which is very simple file that collects all the stations information for that day. And it shows it collects both the near real-time data for each station and the average forecast for the following 24 and 48 hours at each station. So this will help the users to have like a summary of the situation of air pollution in Northern Europe. And then we are planning to add a button where each station could a button where the users can download for each station the forecast and the near real-time data for only that station. So before concluding, we'd like also to talk about some challenges that we faced during the development phase of the service. First of all, we'd like to talk about data quality, because we had to face some struggles regarding data availability and the quality of the data, because CAMS and the European Environmental Agency, that are the main providers of the input data for our model. For example, in the latest months, they changed their servers and the way the data can be downloaded. So it's very important to be updated and to continuously check what's happening at the data source level. And also, it's important to continuously assess the quality of data during development and monitoring phases, because, for example, the European Environmental Agency data set that I provided at daily level, they also changes during time, because we have to think that air pollution stations provide measure data, but from time to time they could not work. So the data are anyway registered by the station, but when it comes to providing the data to the servers, there could be some delay. So every day the data might be in some sense a little bit newer or updated. And also we developed the website in Azure, because it was easier to have a free access web page where anyone can access.
So as for what concerns the model, of course, the fact that we have issues with data kind of reflects on the development of the model. So the idea is that during the development, we had to take into consideration that we could have had issues when at a certain date we might not have data for an entire station, so for several weeks, or even for a station might have a lot of gaps. So the model needs to be functional anyway, even though for a specific date we might not have data. And also because of the quality of data might be deteriorated at a certain point, we need to take into consideration the fact that we might have to deal with gaps and outliers. So if the quality is deteriorating, then also the performance of the model is deteriorating, especially because it's also a dynamic, or the whole service is a dynamic process. This means that in time, like the model is going to have to face a large quantity of new data. So the idea is that constant performance assessment and also updating the model in time, they both need to be things that are to be factored in the development. So lastly, because this is all the deep learning realm, in all the deep learning realm, the research is very fast-paced. We had to consider some of these state-of-the-art models during the development phase. So Crossformer was developed in 2023, and it was the state-of-the-art model when we started our development. But of course, we have to constantly assess the performance, because that might not be the case in the future.
Okay, so to conclude, our service that we called AURORAE aims at improving the CAMS forecast that is available now for PM10 in municipalities in Northern Europe and in the European Arctic. It is made for non-scientific users, but hopefully will be able to navigate the map and access air pollution data in an easy way. And we also have hope that the service will be able to empower Nordic and Arctic communities in terms of air quality topics and its the effect of air pollution on public health. And also we hope that the service will help communities to promptly take action in case of episodes of high level of air pollution. So we have also a Slido survey that we'd like you to fill in when you have time. And there is also a last question, but it's just an open question, so you can provide any kind of comments and feedbacks regarding our service. In addition, we'd like to promote an internship opportunity at JRC connected to the air pollution forecast service that aims at evaluating socio-economic impacts and supports user engagement. And please apply. Here you can find the website, but I've seen that also Lisa did the website in the chat. Thank you. So if anyone have questions, comments, or anything, we are here to answer and also discuss a little bit of what you think about the service.
Yeah, thank you, Ilaria and Alice, for your introduction. I think that was really nice, and just to also see how the service developed, and to see that everyone can use it. It is understandable, and like, yeah, making use of data that might be really complicated in the beginning and now is visualized in an easy way for everyone to use. Yeah, so you're all very welcome to ask questions. We are opening up the floor now to, yeah, discuss, to give feedback, to ask and answer. So welcome to contribute. You can write your questions or feedback in the chat, or just raise your hand. And I already see one raised hand. Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ilaria and Alice. Very, very interesting. I think you did a great job with this service, and I'm very curious to see how this is going to develop during the rest of the project. So this is my question, looking more into the future, based on this great work you have been doing. And the question would be, what additional or what kind of final development stages do you envision for the project duration time until end of next year? Is there any significant addition or update you are expecting to be possible until then? Or would the state be approximately where it is now? And then, of course, I would be very curious to hear how difficult you see the possibility to adapt the model framework or the service framework to other regions like North America or Greenland, for example. Yeah, which probably would need another learning period with other observational records on the local scale. But I would be happy to hear more about that.
Thanks, Michael, for the question. So I think we can consider regarding future developments. I mean, I can talk about how to develop the dashboard and the visual interface, and I think Alicia could talk a little bit more about models. So in terms of the dashboard, we are thinking that apart from providing data to the users, we can also collect data from the users. So one of the next steps might be creating, we still have to figure it out how, create some way that for the users to provide information regarding the situation of air pollution at the moment in their community, or to, for example, indicate if there is maybe a large source of air pollution in their area, such as I don't know, an industry or like a mining site that from our side we don't know because we are just treating air pollution data. So to have you know, a bigger picture, better picture, or also to see if the model maybe performs better or less better in some areas. So this could be important. And also to provide information regarding any kind of knowledge they have of air pollution in their area, and also maybe some information or data regarding diseases could be helpful, or really anything that they could tell us. Alicia, if you want to maybe go through the development part of the models.
Yeah, so for the improvement in what's left and for the time in the project, I would say that as I've mentioned, there is a lot of performance assessment that needs to be done, and we have developed some ideas as of now, but we are like at the stages of checking if there are better ways of assessing performance measures, especially because it is, as we have mentioned, is kind of a dynamic process. So, and also the feedback would be very useful also for the performance assessment, especially because it gives us indices of what's working and what's not. So that is like, of course, the model, as I've mentioned, being a deep learning model can also be perfected. So we might also check how actually to upgrade the model if we manage to find a way that is better than what it is now. So this is for what concerns the upgrade in the next few months. As for what you mentioned for adapting it to different areas, I would say that the model as it is like it already is trained on some stations, but the geometrical part was made so that it could adapt to different regions. So the model per se can also be adapted to different regions if provided that you have enough data to cover that, because of course we had a massive amount of data to train this. So it was performing well on our region because we had time series of 4 years for 160 stations. So it's quite like a large amount of data for, even if the model is complex, it did work well. So if I would say that if you have a region where you have around 50, 60 stations, it would be the performance would be quite reasonable. If you have like 3 stations, might be a bit more difficult. But it's also like it would be also interesting to see if it manages to outperform Copernicus services, because for us the idea was that in the northern region Copernicus was not really performing too well, and that was like the main aim was just to outperform Copernicus services. So the tuning in order to just give us a good performance might be like a different index instead of just the evaluation compared to the Copernicus service, because maybe they are already a bit better in some areas.
Thank you for the question and also for your elaborate answers, Ilaria and Alicia. We have a question from Wan Ming. You raised your hand, please.
Hi, hope you can hear me. I guess I'm coming from North American side. I guess it was 2 questions. One, I guess you are focusing on PM10. I just wonder, here in North America, we're more focused on PM2.5. I guess in terms of inhalable component for health impact, I guess finer particles and get into this system more easily than the coarser particles. So I wonder whether there's some fundamental difference, a consideration for what's focused in Europe and what's focused in North America. The other question is on the modeling side. I guess I was trying to clarify that you're running this system in real time to provide 48-hour forecast. So you're constantly feeding in, so you have observation data and model data from 9 models, and so for your observation data, you will have just up to date whenever the network can provide you. And for model data, and you're using the model forecast, is that, I just wonder whether that my understanding is correct. And then you show that your performance is, so the error is much better than the best performing model in the group. I just wonder whether you looked at, they do ensemble. Usually the easiest way is ensemble average. And with ensemble average, they can also provide, usually the error is also smaller than the best performing model. I just wonder whether you compare that to see this is even a better way of doing ensemble. It's almost like a better way of doing ensemble forecast. I don't know whether I understood this correctly.
Thank you, Monming, for your questions. So we'll start with the first one. We choose merely PM10 because we have more stations that collect data regarding PM10. So we could have many data to fit in the model. Because for PM 2.5, we didn't have as many stations collecting those data. So we wanted to create a pilot service that had enough data to work. So that's simply data, I would say it's just boundary condition by which is PM10. We know that on the health side, PM 2.5 is more it's more dangerous, so it creates more health problems. But in our case, we had to stick on PM10 because we had basically like double of the stations on measuring it. And regarding the ensemble, I don't know if the question regarding ensemble and why we didn't use it. I mean, we use it in the same way. I don't know if Alicia, do you want to answer on that?
Yeah, so as I've mentioned before, we are working on some performance assessments, and of course the ensemble will also be included in that. So this was just to show that even compared to deterministic models, our model works better. But yeah, of course, maybe the ensemble, which to my understanding is like the median of or the models, might perform just a tiny bit better than the others. But I mean, the aim is also to have a model which is consistent. And in our case, even though we might have, for example, missing data or some issues with the Copernicus services, the models will still work. So this is basically also one kind of improvement compared to the Copernicus service.
Okay, thanks.
Michael?
Yeah, sorry, it's me again. So talking about Copernicus service, have you been speaking with them? What do they think about your service being outperforming themselves or their own methods so far? Do they, let's say, receive it positively and consider, you know, taking on your methodology also into their service at some point?
We haven't yet. I think we wait for scientific paper to come out before talking
Okay.
to them. Yes, but also Copernicus service developed another forecast service that use more simple artificial intelligence methodologies to improve their forecast station by station. So let's say the general approach is similar to ours. So now we are, and they started this service only this year in January. So now we are collecting the data, and we still have to compare our forecast with their forecast for the available stations, and then we'll see how they perform. And then in case we outperform also, I hope so. We can have a chat with them.
Yeah, okay, great. I think it's always good if we can give some feedback to Copernicus from the EU projects, because they always like to see the EU projects also as a potential to develop their ideas further and to help them making the next steps. And so I would assume that in principle it is welcome to get new ideas and new suggestions. Okay, so thank you very much again for this really interesting presentation and for your great work.
Before we are about to close this webinar, maybe you could say some more words about your collaborations with stakeholders and communities. One in terms of if they have more information behind data. For example, in Northern Norway, there were kind of red-shaped points. Like why is this occurring at these spots? And also on the other hand, like talking to communities or health organizations, authorities, local ones, that they know about the service and could use it or find it helpful, and also receiving feedback by them.
Yeah, this is a full activity that we'd like to carry on in this second part of the project. So now that the service is almost ready, we also like to distribute it and to really see how the communities could welcome or not the service, if they feel it's useful. And yes, we are trying to make some contact with them. And also, we like to be able to get some feedbacks to improve the service. And as I said before, we are sponsoring this internship opportunity, but the intern will mainly work on getting in contact with the communities and really try to understand which are the benefits coming from the service and how it could be used by them. So please apply. And yeah, that's it. So yes, this is those are some topics that we want to address in the year to come, the month and next year.
Nice. Yeah, well, thank you all so much. Unless there are any more questions in the room or are really pressing, please bring them up now. Otherwise, we're going to close soon. You have the contacts of Ilaria and Alice and the team also. And please also check the Artificial website. There's more information on other services we are developing in the project. I think there's a lot more to come out, and I would also highlight the next online seminar we are having next week already, which is on topic which is very close to our Arctic Passion heart, which is on the event databases of Arctic communities. And yeah, it will be very exciting for us to share these results too. But with this, I think we're closing it. Thank you, Alice and Ilaria, and your team for presenting today and for your hard work on this project. It's exciting to see the results and looking forward to what's coming up next and also in the next year for Arctic Passion. Thank you all for joining. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ilaria, Alice, and also Josefine and Lisa. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all for joining.